Hello, today we're talking about the media bay. This is the media bay. Little button up here, top left hand corner. Bada bing. Okay, this is a database that stores everything that you might want to access in Cubase, pretty much ever. Presets, plugins, config data, the lot. It's all in here. And if you live completely inside the Steinberg world, it's very fantastic. Only when you start using third-party products does it start falling over a little bit. But let's have a quick look at what's going on. Now, the most useful information for me is plugin presets. So if we select that, then you have to kind of click outside the box unsatisfyingly. So this is all of the plugin presets that Cubase knows about. Most of them will be from its internal sounds, because every Steinberg product is intrinsically incorporated inside Media Bay. You get them all for free. So if you install Hallion, where's Hallion? Here we are. So you get Hallion with the Absolute package, Steinberg Absolute package. You get a cut down version of it. I think Sonic SE comes bundled by default. I can't quite remember. And as you can see on my system, 3,251 presets. So let's say we want to find a synth pad. Okay. So just by clicking that, it's immediately filtered all the synth pad sounds in this Hallion Sonic VST. So let's pick one. So you see it with the hourglass. It's loading the sound into memory. So now when I hit the keyboard, choose a different sound, just single click. Okay. When you find a sound that you like, if you double click, you saw something just happen behind the screen. Let's just minimize that for a moment. It's created an instrument track with that sound preloaded. You can see Hallion Sonic soft SQU pad, square pad. And here it is. Okay. And then from there we can edit the instrument. And there's Hallion Sonic in all its glory. Back over to Media Bay. So you can see across the top window, I've got these 6: category, subcategory, plugin name, plugin category, rating, and character. So they're the most useful settings for me. If I click this little reset filter button here, it takes us back to everything where we can see the whole list of available options. So if we just want vintage sounds, pick the vintage filter. Maybe we want just 4 and 5 star sounds. So we can filter by rating. So by choosing this option up here, I selected 4 stars. It's given me all the 4 and 5 star sounds. So it's that and above. And now we can scroll down and listen to all these. So these are sounds that I've already rated. Moog Mod Suite. I'm a bit of a sucker for the Moog sounds. Moog. Okay, so you can see that sound is coming from the Hybrid 64 plugin, and this is the thing about Media Bay. It's all of the presets all of the time. It dips in. It doesn't load a full instance of the VST. It dips into the preset, into the VST, and kind of grabs its sound and plays it. So I'm listening to the Hybrid 64 play this sound, but there isn't an instance of the Hybrid 64 loaded in my song until I double click it. There is. from this point onwards, I can then, there it is, there's the hybrid. So it's fantastic to be able to correlate all of your VSTs together into one central place and have this repository of information that you can filter with options like this. And when I first bought Cubase, I was very excited and spent a lot of time, very joyous time, had an absolutely fantastic time doing it, going through lots of the synth that I owned, basically listening to every sound and rating it, just spending more time than I'm prepared to admit, just joyously going through all of these various VSTs, rating all of the sounds. The problem is that for the non-Steinberg stuff, it doesn't appear by default. So let's have a look at Omnisphere, for instance. Omnisphere. See, there are 2 presets in Omnisphere. Well, that's not true. Omnisphere is one of the biggest preset-laden VSTs out there. Something like 10,000 at a guess sounds. It's absolutely crazy. So why do we only see 2? It's because Omnisphere isn't a Steinberg product, and they don't offer a media bay integration package. When you install Omnisphere on your machine, Cubase can see it and it can load it up. So let's add an instance of Omnisphere here. But Media Bay doesn't know about all these sounds until you tell it. So those 2 that you saw are because they're sounds that I use regularly, and I've actually imported them into Media Bay. So let's do that. So if we pick let's just find a sound. Okay, so we're now going to store that sound inside Media Bay. This little box up at the top. So this tiny little square. It's the same as that there. Save preset. And it brings up this box. And now we get to characterize that sound. Well, it's let's have a think. It's a kind of analogy pad sound with a bit of motion. So you see I went by subcategory. When you select that, it automatically assigns category, so that just saves you a click. Let's call it a 4-star sound. And then we can give it some character. So we can choose the attributes that we want to assign to this sound. So let's say it's a poly sound, and it's got an electric, analog, vintage sound. It's quite processed. So it takes time. This is a single sound I'm doing here. Quite cold. It sounded quite metallic. Slow evolving thing. Long. Long release, long sustain, slow attack. So once we've selected all our character attributes, and I always name them the same as was originally in the instrument, so I can, because there's no other correlation between these 2 things. Save. Okay. So now when we go back into Media Bay, shut that down. We've got 3 VSTs. So here's the Fender Rhodes. The Omnisphere Fender Rhodes is just the best. But if we single click back on this, it's going to load that sound back in. There it is. So you build a library of all the sounds that you're most interested in. Now I have my own rating system. Five-star is fantastic, reserved for the very, very best across all the sounds in my entire installation package, and I have like Native Instruments Complete and Omnisphere and Roland Cloud and more VSTs than you can shake a stick at, certainly more than I could ever reasonably use in a lifetime. I've rated 63 of them as 5 stars. So they're the very, very best of the sounds, because they're the things they're my go-to sounds. If I click on Omnisphere, I want to see that LA Custom Classical Piano at the top of the list, because if I want a piano sound, I'm almost always going to pick that one. 4-star is just a really good sound. So these are the sounds that I think, wow, that sounds great. I'll use that in a song one day. I'm really interested in doing something with it. So they've got, it's taking a while to load this one. This is a Roland sound. 3-star sounds actually don't have a rating. Any ones that you see here, all of these plugin presets with the 3 stars, I haven't rated. The reason for that is that Steinberg have this incredibly annoying policy of giving their own sounds a default rating of 3 stars. So when you install Hallian Sonic or Retrolog or Pad Shop, it gives its own sounds 3 stars, which means that if I rate stuff with 3 stars, it's polluted, because I'm now hearing stuff that I've never heard before. I've not given it 3 stars. So because it annoys me so much, I don't use the 3-star rating at all. So really, it effectively means it doesn't have a rating. And 2 stars is rubbish. 2 stars is the stuff that I just don't want to hear again. A sound that the chaff that you come across in any VST instrument. So that's what I rate at 2 stars. So you see, there are actually no VST instruments with 0 or 1 stars. I simply don't use those values at all. So it's either rubbish, unrated, good, or awesome. 4-point rating, pretty easy. But it's not just plugins that we can access through the media bay. There's all sorts of other stuff. Audio files. Thousands upon thousands of audio files. So if we pick, I don't know, let's see what arpeggios we've got. So that's a wave file. So if I double click that, there it is. There's your wave. Zoom in. So I'm zooming here by clicking Control, and then my mouse wheel scrolls up and down to zoom in and out. Make the track bigger, and now we can see our wave. Processing audio is a thing for another time, but we access that through the media bay. That's the thing I want to take away. You can see the reason it's playing every time I click on one of these things is because I'm telling it to. Autoplay new results selection, and there we have our play, stop, and pause buttons. Okay, so like thousands upon thousands of audio files in here that we can just access, and they're all categorized, and we can choose whatever we want. Dissonant. In terms of pointing media bay at your own stuff, if you want to import your own audio files or your own MIDI loops or whatever, then you can open your computer and individually drill down to the folders that you want to see. So you can see I've imported all of my MIDI drum patterns in. And there they are. So I can audition MIDI files from inside here if I want. And if I decide that's the one I want to hear, drag that across onto a MIDI track, and then I have that data to do whatever I want with. So there's millions of different ways of accessing the same data from depending on what your requirements are. Be careful about clicking these little buttons. It's quite easy to kind of unset an entire folder, in which case it'll have to rescan it. It's a bit annoying. And up here we have preset locations that you can, like favorite locations that you can record. I just stick on all media all the time and have it scan the entire thing. I have an awful lot of data, but I never look at everything all at once. If I'm just looking at plugin presets, for instance, then I have set a maximum of 60,000 results, so it can easily display everything all at once. And that's the media bay. Potentially fantastic if you stick completely inside Steinberg's world, like double, triple fantastic, because everything is already categorized for you. All of those flags and filters are already set. If you want to start using your own sounds, then you want them inside media bay at that level of detail, then you're going to have quite a task on your hands to categorize all of that information. Even if you just want to import the name and give it a rating and not bother with the character flags, it's still going to take you a while. What I tend to do is I do it as required. When I come across a great sound that I know I'm going to want to gain, I import it into media bay, and then from there it's a very easy way to, if I'm trying to find a piano sound from scratch, the way I'll do it is go into media bay, go to plugin presets, make sure I don't have any filters set, go down to piano, 5-star, LA Custom Classic, just double clicked it, and now it's loading that track somewhere. Just a little heads up, if you're selecting stuff in the media bay, it's usually best to single click and let it load itself into, you saw the hourglass tick then. Okay, from that point onwards, it's completely safe to double click and then it'll load it as a track. If you're browsing around and you just double click, if it takes a long time for it to load it into its internal buffer, it might not recognize that you've double clicked. And if you don't actually have Cubase in view at the time, you might not notice that it's not loaded the track and it kind of catches you out. So I always get into the habit of just single clicking the sound, audition it, make sure it's the right sound, happy with that, double click, load it into Cubase, job's a good one. So that's the media bay. Thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.